Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bedomy and this is Wild Assault, a third-person shooter developed by Combat Cat Studios and released in 2025. It is a game that blends the best elements of Battlefield's Rush mode and elements of hero shooters such as Overwatch. Every character has its own specialized abilities and ultimate abilities that build up as you play the game and use other abilities and deal damage. But honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of such mechanics because it undermines the elements of shooting to a certain degree. It also limits the hero's abilities to actually fight. I will explain this in better detail as we progress with the video, but I should disclaim that I'm not a big fan of hero shooters in general. I will try to stay objective for the sake of the video, but if I go on a tangent, I do apologize. With that said, let's get on with a review of Wild Assault. At the current moment, the game is a bit scarce with the background, but from what I understand, there's an alternative history where animals evolved into Valiants, which are anthropomorphized animal soldiers, and humans probably didn't, or they're in a minority. It's honestly hard to tell because most of the story context comes from trailers and possible character descriptions, but those are limited, to say the least. The character descriptions mostly focus on the characters and their abilities, while the trailers are mostly interested in selling you the game, which is they show you the abilities of the characters and just throw a line or two that provides context as to why are these characters fighting. Which in itself isn't a bad thing, since the trailer's job is to showcase the best elements of the game and incentivize people to buy it. But I really wish that one of the trailers, at the very least the announcement trailer, provided some context as to why are these characters fighting. A good game will sell itself with solid gameplay, but there is a limiting factor because there are people who do not enjoy that particular type of gameplay. Providing a good story will still generate interest for those people, and they will join the game in itself just to follow the story. Just take a look at Fatal Fury. The game came out a little bit after the original Street Fighter II. They had unique mechanics such as lane systems, early iteration of super moves, and a fully developed story and versus mode. But the developers knew that fighting games were a niche genre, so they focused all their marketing on the story itself. They made light novels, they made manga, they made promotional short stories that promoted the story so people came along to see what's happening, and that made the game a lot more memorable for everyone who paid attention to it. The Street Fighter formula was go fight until you reach a bison, and then we'll tell you a bit about the character. Which in itself isn't a bad thing since, as I already said, good gameplay will generate interest and people will flock to play the game, but a good story will also generate additional interest. And that is something Wild Assault is ignoring at the moment. They have a unique saying already with anthropomorphic characters and solid gameplay, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people would be interested in finding out more about the world their characters are inhabiting and why are they fighting. From what I gathered from the trailers, the character of Marquis, which is the skunk, serves as a main villain of sorts. She has a bodyguard, Meerkat, Prairie Dog, I'm not too sure, and they are actively being hunted by the Fox Ninja, Panda Soldier, and the Cap Doctor. Which is interesting, and I want to know why are they fighting and trying to kill each other. But then the game does what we call the Ludonarrative dissonance, and this allows you to play all of these characters in the same team without any negative repercussions. And that is something I genuinely hate about hero shooters in general. They provide me interesting characters and a setting and a backstory as to why are they fighting each other. But then the game comes in and they are just working well with each other like nothing happened. If there was a gameplay mode that forced them to work together for one reason or the other, that would be okay, at least by my standards. For example, both characters are trying to kill each other, but they unleashed a certain toxin or there's a horde of monsters coming their way, and they both need to survive for one reason or the other. They call a truce and maybe try to sabotage the other during the gameplay itself. That would make the game interesting. But no, the developers always just say, oh, here's a story, these characters hate each other, but we're not going to do anything interesting with it. You'll just have to choose whichever character you like and go fight other players. How? Why? Are these clones? What's happening? Obviously, I'm exaggerating this part, but I hope it demonstrates my confusion and frustration about stuff like this. Games that are solely focused on the multiplayer side of things have their rule sets inadvertently written by the trailers. For a simplest example, take a look at Team Fortress 2. Most people have a tendency to play Medic by following the Heavy. It's not the most optimal way of playing, but whenever I've played the Team Fortress, I've seen medics and heavies going in together. And same goes for the soldier play. They run around, rocket jump, use shovel to melee. Well, not just shovel, but they melee a lot. They're reckless. The trailer for Soldier himself demonstrated that the character is reckless and he does anything for the kill. And that kind of reflects on the players as well. Mind you, that's not always the case, but if the character's personality, traits, and abilities are built for a specific thing, people will try to enter that mentality and play as that character as close as possible. While that in itself isn't a bad thing, most hero shooters have a tendency to sell you big worlds, big characters, and their personalities and relationships all at once, which creates a lot of confusion and frustration when the gameplay itself comes into play. The trailers tell you one story, but the gameplay tells you to ignore it, which would be an issue if there was a single-player mode that focused on the story, or if the trailers just focused on the single character and their abilities, instead of selling the big world and the character relationships. But I digress. Let's focus on the gameplay and see what Wild Assault is all about, shall we? Wild Assault takes the best elements of Battlefield's Rush and Conquest modes and sprinkles in elements of hero shooters on top of it. You start off by picking one of 4 classes with unique weapons and abilities, and work together with your teammates in order to finish the objective. At the moment, Wild Assault only has 2 gameplay modes called Raid and Conquest. There is a deathmatch mode, but that's still a work in progress, and they have a periodic test server built. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend these test servers due to scheduling issues in real life, but if the gameplay is as solid as it is in Conquest and Raid, I can say on good authority that deathmatch will be a fun experience for anyone who has the opportunity to test it out. The movement mechanics, the shooting, the abilities, they all work great. In one match, I ran on all 4s towards the destroyed bus, jumped on top of it, and then used it as a platform to jump on top of a higher rock where I could make a sniper nest and call in air support. In another match, I just belly rolled towards cover and mortar fired the entrenched enemy. That's the beauty of the movement system here. The developers understood that these are not just human-like players, these are animals. So, while they can run on 2 legs, they can also use all 4 of them to get higher, to run faster. Well, sprinting is a limited resource, but again, the developers understood these are animalistic characters and they gave them extra abilities because of it. Wolf characters can sniff out multiple enemies and, well, they're scouts mostly, but basically they can see through walls because of that. They sniff their enemies out. And the usage of sniper, if you know where to position yourself, you're a death dealer at that point. Panda character will roll towards the enemy and then use his bulk to guard the teammates. And that's just the movement and character models. Once we've put in the abilities and their passives, you're actually looking at a very complex team-based shooter. Every character falls into one of 3 body types, and they also have their unique passives that grant them specific bonuses during the gameplay itself. The body types themselves are split into heavy, medium, small, and you can guess how that works. Big characters are slow but healthier and they can tank the damage. Small characters are fast, have low hit points but they can dish out a lot of damage. And medium is the best of both worlds. And then add abilities to every character. And you have a pretty sizable roster with specialists for different occasions. And on top of that, you can actually change these characters when you need to. Granted, you have to die first and then change the character, but it is a fair trade-off for a situation. You can switch from a squishy sniper in close quarters to a beefy tank with a machine gun who can destroy the whole place within seconds. And honestly, I forgot to mention the gunplay itself. The guns work, I won't say flawlessly, but the animation, the sound effects, and the overall aiming mechanics work pretty solid, if I do say so myself. The only issue I have with them is the auto aim, but aim assist the game implements. I understand this is meant to help controller players while they're playing with PC players as well, but the issue is the aim assist cannot be turned on or off. At least I didn't find it in the settings. And that's a problem if you're playing with a mouse and keyboard, because if you crouch, try to aim behind cover, the game will automatically assume you're aiming, will snap you to the cover itself and you won't be able to fire. Not to mention, if you're using a machine gun at a long distance, the game will nudge you towards the nearest player you're aiming at, which can be a hollow victory if you manage to wipe out 5 players from across the map with a machine gun. Granted, that rarely happens, and I usually had a fairly medium distance, so that's believable to me, but still, it wasn't a fair win. But despite the auto-aim hiccups, the gunplay itself is pretty fun. It has a decent bullet spread when you're aiming with an assault rifle or a machine gun. Shotguns are deadly at close quarters, and the opposite the same goes for snipers from a long distance. Not to mention that pistols and melee are also a valid option when you are in a bind. Some characters are even specifically made for melee, provided they can get into melee range. The game's kill time is fairly quick, and it's designed in a way that promotes team play. Any character, no matter the body type, will go down quickly if they're caught in the open, and they will need the help from a squad mate or a medic to get up from their injured state. After a specific time period, they'll die off and have to respawn, and depending on which gameplay mode you're playing, that can be a detriment to your team as a whole. The simplest example is the raid mode, which is Wild Assault's version of Rush from Valve. The main objective of the mode is to either capture or defend an area within a certain time limit. The attacking team has a number of lives they can spend as they wish, as long as they can capture the area, while the defensive team has to defend the area with unlimited lives. When the area is captured, a new section of the map gets unlocked, and the defenders have to choose which area they want to defend, or where to concentrate their forces. While the attackers get extra lives, and they have to assault a new area and try to get it without losing all of their lives. Something similar can be said about the Conquest mode as well. You have a large map with objectives you have to capture and hold until either the timer or the enemy health pool runs out. And the enemy team will try to capture these points as well, so it's always a tug of war on Conquest. It's not a simple, okay, we captured this area, now we move to the next one. It's how many people are staying behind to defend this place, and how many are going in to attack another area. So as you can imagine, late games become very intensive. And incredibly frustrating when 3 freaking medics pass you by in order to capture another kill instead of helping the rest of the team get back on their feet. I lost the number of times we lost the whole game at the last stretch because nobody was healing. Yes, I'm aware that there are bots in the game that are programmed to just go and fight, and they're supposed to fulfill in the numbers of the players on the server. That's fair. That's all well and good because we don't have the players, but still, you'd think that somebody would at least code in a basic idea of, hey, I'm in a squad with these characters. I should probably heal them if they're down. Or, medics, heal. Just that. I know it's not simple as that when it comes to coding, but yeah, but it is frustrating. I'm sorry, folks. I do give credit where credit's due. The people who made this game did a fantastic job, but bot logic really needs some work. And to wrap up this little rant, I would just like to make a quick, I won't say public service, but a quick message to all of you playing medics. If you recognize yourself in that little rant I just did, please be grateful there's no friendly fire in this game. And at the very least, use the ping system. I'm not saying this to only medics, I'm saying this to all of you. Ping system in this game exists. Use it! I've seen squads wiped out by a single machine gunner because nobody pinged the guy. And he was not hiding, he was jumping around like a maniac. Okay, I'm done. Now I'm done. I just hope that these 2 stories were a decent example of why teamwork exists. Not only are you a detriment to the team if you're all getting killed, you're also helping your enemies. Not only are you providing them with easy kills that are diminishing our numbers, but you're also filling up their ultimate ability. Any action the player takes, be it killing, damaging, healing, or pinging the enemy, fills up ultimate ability bar. Once that bar is filled up, the enemy or the player in general can use that ultimate ability. And these abilities can change the tide of battle fairly quickly, depending on who uses them and when. For example, we're down to the last second when we have to capture a zone, but we're all down to our last level of health, and the medic pops in with a mass heal. Hell, we're charging in, we're capturing that zone, and we're winning. Or if we need to hold off a bridge, and we're out of bullets, an artillery strike will hold off the enemy attack for long enough until the rest of the team shows up. Stuff like that really is important, and having an ultimate ability ready and waiting is crucial. It will change the situation, but it won't win you the match. It will just create an opportunity for you and your team to go in and win. And speaking of teammates, let's take a look at the classes we're actually using in this team-based shooter. The characters you use in the game are separated into 4 separate classes: Assault, Scouts, Experts, and Support. Which in theory isn't a bad thing because you have a general idea of what every class can do. The Assault will punch in for the enemy lines and hold the area for as long as possible, while the Scouts harass and scout the area ahead of them. Experts will provide, well, their expertise, for the lack of a better word. The simplest way I would describe Experts is, consider the first 2 defenders and the other 2 attackers. Their abilities, weapons, and ultimates are designed to do one thing and one thing only. Either kill the enemy or make them think twice before poking their heads out of the cover. If I haven't made this obvious enough, I do enjoy the Experts quite a lot, but the thing is, they're hard to describe to anyone who hasn't played them. Once you figure out when and how to use them, you're more or less the MVP of the game. The only issue they have is you need to take time to learn them and figure out the best way to play them. Last but not least, there are the medics. The characters you'll grow very fond of as you play the game. And I'm not saying that out of any questionable preferences. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in the gameplay section, but I'll reiterate just in case. When you get downed in a fight, you can only be revived by a squad mate. The medics are the only class that can revive anyone, so having them around is always a good thing. Not only do they keep you healthy and fighting, they can also dish out some pretty decent damage with their assault rifles. Or some machine guns, depending on what you take. And if the medic in question is not a brain-dead bot, but a competent player, you might actually win the game! But even if you win or lose, you will get some experience with the characters you played, which unlocks a few modifications and skins for your weapons, and a few talent points for your skill tree. And skill tree is one gameplay mechanic I'm not a big fan of. At least not in team-based shooters. They either increase or decrease the amount of damage your character can dish out or take, or maybe increase the recharge speed of your ultimate ability by a certain percentage. Which in itself isn't a bad thing, but in a team-based shooter where you have to rely on your teammates, these types of upgrades are very counterproductive because they go against the grain of working as a team. Instead of empowering the squad, you're empowering your own character, and in turn you'll probably ignore the rest of the squad in order to go and kill the rest of the enemy team by yourself. Or not just kill, but push the objective and whatnot. It creates the wrong type of mentality, that's what I'm trying to say. Just for example, look at Team Fortress 2. In that game, you have 9 different classes with unique strengths and weaknesses. The most well-known is Heavy Weapons Guy, who is big, healthy, and has a minigun. And he is devastating in close quarters. So to compensate that, he is slow, and he can be dealt with by a spy with a backstab or a sniper from a long distance with a good headshot. As you can probably see, there are no statistics in play there. It's just pure mechanics. You can argue that there are weapons with statistics that create something different, but those are weapons with funny side effects. For example, Heavy's secondary machine gun will create a small ring of fire around him that will expose the spy when he backstabs him, but it will not kill him. Or the Scout's shotgun. One of his shotguns, to be more precise. They have a devastating damage output, but they're a single shot and have to be reloaded after every single shot. It's mostly mechanics here, and percentages are just there to indicate what these mechanics do. The point is, there is no skill tree that encourages, I am important, the rest of the team can go suck a lemon or something. It's a team-based shooter, and the gameplay mechanics encourage you to work with a team. Or, if you believe a skill tree is necessary, try to make it interesting. Instead of statistics, include changes to the way the character plays. For example, let's say I want to turn my scout into a sniper, mostly. I'd sacrifice his movement abilities, but I'd gain an ability to tag a whole enemy squad if I down one of the tagged enemies. Or I can drop the sniper rifle and increase my stamina by 50%, let's say, and gain the ability to tag multiple enemies as I run along. Stuff like that would be interesting. And if you ever heard of high-res paladins, that's the mechanical system they implemented very successfully, I'd say. Every character they have in the game has at least 2 or 3 ways to play. The skill tree they have doesn't change the character at its core, it just adds layers to the character. Instead of a healer, you have a hybrid between a healer and assault. And that's something I think Wild Assault would benefit from greatly. Instead of 3 small skill trees that lock us in and give us small percentages, give us a big tree that allows us to specify the character in a way we want to play. The shooting mechanics and abilities work well on their own. The percentages just add unnecessary complications. And speaking of complications, who wants to look at the Season Pass? I don't, but it's here. And I'll give credit where credit's due. It isn't predatory and it's not time limited. Not to mention that the majority of the rewards there are free for everyone. The only things locked behind a paywall are the in-game currency and a few legendary skins for the new character that gets introduced with the Season Pass and a few characters that are associated with the said character. At least that's my theory, because the third season came out and they added no new characters, so I'm just assuming these characters present in the Season Pass are just associated in the same team or something. I could be wrong, and if I am, I do apologize, but that's the assumption I'm going with. Unfortunately, the characters don't have any unique voice lines or interactions in game, so it's kind of hard to tell. And as for the Season Pass content, it's kind of a mixed bag because of it. For one, you have a free new character with the Season Pass, and a few skins that are associated with him, or her. And there are also a few free weapons and skins for a different class altogether. Apart from that, you get a lot of XP boosters that help you upgrade your weapons faster, and an unusable currency that cannot be exchanged for anything. I've checked the shops, I've checked the character progression, I cannot exchange these tokens for anything, so when and where they're exactly going to be used, I have no idea. The only currency I've seen used so far is the premium currency, and I will not pay for that. And not out of malice, but out of principle. This is an early access game that you have to pay for. If this was a free-to-play title, and skins were the only way for the developers to get paid or to support the servers, I'd happily donate the money for it. But when it comes to early access games, I go with the side of caution. For one, if they come out of early access as free-to-play titles, the money I spent on playing them is, well, not wasted, but you do run the risk of losing Season Pass rewards and content. It happened to me with Rocket League, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped playing it altogether. I sincerely hope this is not going to be the case for Wild Assault, but be warned, this is the gamble you take with early access. Apart from that gamble, the Season Pass is a fairly decent one, I'd say. You can revisit previous seasons and unlock rewards from that. The majority of the content is free for everyone, as I already mentioned. And well, if you want the skins, you'll have to pay for them, that's fair. The Battle Pass can be unlocked fairly quickly with daily, weekly, and monthly quests, which just ask you to kill or damage a certain number of enemies or do something specific for a set amount of points. And whenever you do that, you progress through the levels of the Battle Pass. Apart from the Season Pass, you also have the Sextant system, which is just, I'd say, a ranking system which unlocks medals and rewards such as experience for weapons and weapon skins again as you level up your progress or ranking. And there's also the limited time Halloween, summer, or Christmas themed Season Pass that's limited time only and gives you a specific skin for a specific character. The latest one was a Halloween-themed ninja outfit for the Fox Ninja. And considering there's Christmas coming up, I'm guessing most of the characters will get some Christmas-themed seasonal weapons. Or seasonal outfits. With that said, I think the game is a very solid piece of entertainment for anyone who likes a good shooter. The outfits, while limited, are more or less here to just indicate who the character is. And I love the game for that. Games like that provide me small details about the characters with their voice lines, the way they dress and how they act during the animations, or how they fight, it creates a connection, at least for me. That's why I love Team Fortress, that's why I have some respect for Overwatch characters, at least there is some clear indication as to how that character will behave in not real life, but in general. And, yeah, I do enjoy this game for what it is. It's a uncomplicated shooter that just wants you to have fun. And that's exactly what you're gonna get. A fun experience you can enjoy with friends or on your own. And mind you, there are a few things that you should be aware of before you join the game itself. At the moment, the game doesn't have too many players, so you'll come across the same people over and over again. But in itself, that can be a good thing because you can develop counter-strategies and also develop some friendships with those people. So I'd say that's a good way to meet people who share some interests with you. And the other thing that might be an issue is the endgame during Conquest mode. Similar to Battlefield's Rush mode, Conquest works on a timer. And no matter how much territory the attacking team captures, they will lose automatically if the timer runs out. Which never made much sense to me. If the attacking team is competent enough to capture 2/3 of the map, that means that the army, while their timer ran out, was still competent enough to win a major territory. In Battlefield terms, that's not the game Battlefield, the actual Battlefield terms, that's considered a victory. The enemy forces are pinned in a small location where you can keep an eye on them, finish them off with an artillery strike, or just send in troops or heavy armor later in to finish them off. And by that I mean capture or finish them off permanently. But I digress. What I wanted to say is, this game would benefit greatly from a last stand system, which would abolish the timer and set limited lives to the defenders if they're pushed to the end of the map. This would create some actual tension for the endgame, and the attacking team would not feel cheated if they lost because of that. It would come down to actual skill and team play, because as it is now, it really makes you feel robbed of the victory if you perform well in the first 2/3 of the map and then get to the end only for the timer to run out. But besides that, this is a very fun experience that I would recommend that you play when you have the chance. It costs less than 15 euros or the original equivalent, so it's not a drain on the wallet. It only requires a Steam account to be played, and the game's overall community is a nice and welcoming one, at least in my experience. So yeah, if you ever feel drained from AAA titles that drain the wallet and nerves, give this game a try. It's a pretty chill one. Competitive, but you won't feel as drained afterwards. It's just a good enough game to shoot a few rounds and have a good time. My name has been Bedomy, thank you very much for watching, and good night.